All right. Ihor, how you going?
Good. How are you, Pato?
Yeah, great. Thanks. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me. I was always dreaming about being on Pato's Backyard podcast ever since I learned about it. And it's such a niche podcast, and I never heard about it until I listened to my friend Andy's podcast. And I was like, "Oh, what is that?" And I'm like, started looking up. I'm like, "Holy, you got quite a podcast going on here. You got a lot of cool guests." So I started listening all the way back and after. So I'm a huge fan. So yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for having me.
Awesome. No worries. So Andy, he was the first Canadian guest I had on. You're the second. I was surprised when I spoke to Andy because he told me that he'd never seen a bear before on any of his runs. And I thought he would have said he'd seen heaps, but do you run into bears every now and then?
I do, yeah, yeah. So when Andy lives in city, a bit different city, so I can go into the wilderness here more often. It's kind of closer to me, so I do run into bears more often than him. However, he does have a little section there where there's quite a few bears. I guess he's just lucky not to run into bears, or maybe they're afraid of him, because the
Yeah.
bears here, they're black and brown bears, so they're pretty harmless. So once they see you, they just run away right away. They're afraid of people.
Right. Is it the grizzly bears that you've got to be careful?
Oh, you gotta go too far into the wilderness, and thankfully, I've never seen a grizzly, and I never will. In the wilderness because those are different beasts.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so I noticed on your Strava that you've done almost 200,000 meters of elevation gain just this year. So I thought you must live in an area with a lot of hills and mountains and things like that.
Yeah, where I live, it's so when I step out of my door, it's either up or down. There's no flat. I have to either drive or at least run towards somewhere flat where I can do some say speed workout if I want to pick up some pace. Otherwise, it's always up, down, up and down. It's never flat, and I got mountains right in my backyard here, so I can just run straight into the mountains pretty much on the trail. Um, so yeah, vert is something I really enjoy, and I spend a lot of time going up and down, and that's why I truly enjoy the day course of Bigs. That was my jam, and I hated the night course because I never run on asphalt.
Right.
Never run on the roads ever. So it was painful for me, and I didn't know that it's 11 loops on trail and 13 loops in the row. When I heard that, I'm like, oh my gosh, that is horrible. Why isn't it 12 and 12?
So from what I can see on your Strava, from what I've heard, you've been running ultras for just over 2 years. And but how long have you been actually running for, and how did you get into running?
Yeah, so I've been running for a bit longer, I think 4 5 even years. So I started as a road runner, which is funny. It's like a little local race in the town. I used to live in a different province. I just moved to British Columbia just over 2 years ago. I lived in central Canada in prairies. It was super flat there.
Yeah.
So I just got into the road race there, um, and just started running as something to do to put my mind off and just a little therapy because I moved here by myself as a student. It was pretty lonely and dealing with new culture, new language, new life. So I needed some activity to kind of keep me sane. And running came up as one of the cheapest sports to get into because all you need is a pair of runners, right?
Yeah.
And I got into one local race, which was a 15K race, which is a funny distance. And I won it only because no one else really wanted to sign up for 15K. People sign up for 10K and 20K,
Yeah.
not 15. So I won. I was like, oh my gosh, I won the race. So from then, I started kind of building up. I did half marathons the year after. I did like 6 or so half marathons. And then the year after, I did, I think, 4 or 5 marathons. Um, But then when COVID started, I got into trails. That's when my ultra trail journey started, and I never went back to roads ever since. And I'm not going back to roads. You
Yeah.
gotta really hard to make me run a road race.
So you mentioned you did a few marathons. Like, what type of well, how fast are you over the marathon? What's your PB?
Oh, horrible, Pato. I don't even want to tell you.
Right.
It's slow. I was on a different level for this. I think if I do now, I could go faster.
Yeah.
But my last marathon that I did, I think in 2019 or 2020. So it was in Florida, and it was like 3:22. So it's
Right.
pretty slow. Pretty slow. I know that I can go faster now, but I never tried because I'm kind of not interested. I'm
Yeah,
just
fair enough.
focusing on trails. Yeah.
Yeah. And is it correct, BC Backyard Ultra? That was actually just your second ultra.
Uh, BC backyard, yes, yeah, because in 2021 I did the 100K in BC backyard. Yeah, you're right. Actually,
Yeah.
yeah. Hey, good job, Paddle. Yeah, you know about me better than I do.
And yeah, and that was only last year, like at the beginning of last year. So it wasn't even that long ago. And you were the last one standing with 39 yards,
Yeah,
right?
it's funny because I signed up like maybe a week before, and my girlfriend convinced me. I didn't want to sign up, and she was like, "Yeah, just sign up. What's the worst that's gonna happen? You'll just DNF, and that's it." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, good point. It's not gonna hurt. Like, let's give it a shot, I guess." And
Yeah.
I guess the rest is history now.
um, and when you won that, at the after you finished that race and you won, did you actually think to yourself anything like, "Oh, gee, maybe I'm pretty good at this," or this was pretty easy, or how did you feel about it after you won?
Yeah, I felt like I could have kept going. I mean, granted, we did 39 hours there. The course was really hard. It was all new to us, right? We didn't know how to pace, like how fast or how slow to go. I remember we actually adopted hard to lose strategy, pacing strategy, because he was at that point the world record holder. And look at him, he's a world record holder again now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we adopted his strategy, and that's how far we went. But then, yeah, when I finished, I was like, okay, it seems like I could have kept going. So let's see what's going to happen at the satellite championships. Maybe we can go a little bit further.
Yeah, so I mean, you did mention that you didn't really know much about backyard ultras when you did that race. So did you go in with a nutrition plan or anything like that? Did you look into it much as far as strategy goes, or did you just rock up with a little bit of food and away you went?
Yeah, I didn't do anything specific nutrition wise, to be honest. It's all about like we all ended up having similar issues with dorsiflexors on our shins. So we more looked into the physiology of like we started more walking actually because we realized in backyard you do walk a lot and you don't train walking, you run. So we focused a bit on training for the specifics of the of this format. But as far as nutrition, no, I haven't even actually planned anything different. With, with backyard, I find nutrition is actually easy because I would eat same that what I would eat on a regular basis, just because how slow we go. So you can digest everything pretty much. Like that's the whole beauty. What we did with Marina, my crew, is that I told her like breakfast is gonna be the same, eggs and bacon, and because we just go so slow. So my stomach always digests it. I never had issues with my stomach. So I was like, you know what? Let's not stress our bodies and just eat exactly same what I would eat on a daily basis, even though it's a race, but it's a slow race, so my body can actually digest it. So yeah, and it worked. It worked.
Yeah. And with BC, it was a silver ticket race into the Canadian team. Like before the race started, did you know about the Canadian team and winning BC?
I did, yeah. I
Yeah.
did. So we looked into it after, and we had so much time during the race that we were chatting.
Yeah.
And in fact, we had a few Canadian teammates, Canadian reps that did it a couple of years prior. So they did explain it to us. how it works, and they were on at large list already, so they were already making it to the team. So by the end of the race, we knew that okay, I guess we're getting into the satellite championship. See how
Yeah.
that goes.
Yeah. Yeah. And did you know about Big's backyard and all that type of thing back then as well?
Yeah. So it'll all happen during race. We learned it during the race. Yeah, like
Right.
I had no idea that there's individual world championships and so on, because it was a bit confusing how it works. So 1 year satellite, 1 year individual champ, but it all got sorted out during race with those veterans in backyard who explained everything to me. So it was pretty cool. Like I've never been on that, like, high level of competition. I never thought that I would get into anywhere anywhere where it says world championship. I was like, holy moly, that's insane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, and the Canadian team's really good, and I think 9 of the runners at the Sat Champs, 9 runners did 40 or more, so it's a good team, and you must have gelled well to get such a good result as well, I reckon.
Yeah, we had a really good team, and in fact, I think we're the only team, or one of two. I can't remember it clearly, that all 15 runners did 24 hours.
Right. Yeah.
So nobody dropped out. I think our first dropout was on 27 or 28, but all 15 runners did 24 hours. So we were like so proud of it. Like, oh,
Yeah.
look at us. So we're so strong. We got through the first 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we've got a really strong team, and I learned so much from my teammates at both races, BC backyard first, and then the satellite, which also happened in BC, and then I pick up brain of runners from out east, from Quebec, from Nova Scotia, Ontario. There, it's where I met Amanda and Eric, who were also at Bigs, and yeah, it's quite a learning curve. I learned a lot from them, and I took that experience to Bigs. And now at Bigs, I learned a lot. I know that
Yeah.
there's some things I can do different, can do better, maybe improve here and there, and so that in 2 years, if I happen to go back, I could do a little bit better.
Um, because I mean, it was a massive improvement from your first backyard to Sat Champs. It was 39, and then when you won Sat Champs, you think you did 67? So, did you change any strategies at the Sat Champs when you did 67 compared to BC?
Nope,
No.
nothing different. Nothing. We just got through the second night.
Yeah.
Because 39, it was into the second night. So we got through the second night, and the sun came out, and it felt better. It always does. And then we went into the third night, which was, I was shocked. I'm like, oh my gosh, we ran through 2 nights. We're getting into the third night now. That's insane. I hope we're not gonna die.
Yeah.
And then it just ended. I think Eric had issues with guts at some point. And yeah, we got almost through. So through the third night, and so we had only 5 hours until the sunrise, pretty much. And when we did 67 hours, I was like, okay, well, we're almost through the third night. So if I can do a few more hours, the sun is going to come out, and I can go through into the fourth day. Like it's possible. It's real. We can do it. So I brought that mindset to Bigs, I guess. And yeah, and Bigs was wild.
Yeah. Was Biggs the first course you'd done with a day and night course?
So no, BC backyard had a night course
Oh,
on the road. Yeah. Our satellite championships, though, did not have a night course. So we would run the same course day and night. It was pretty challenging, too. There's quite a lot of vert there. And I find having day and night course helps mentally, even though I don't like asphalt and running on the road. But after a certain time, you kind of you get tired of even trail, so something to look forward to, right? So just to change the picture, change the mindset, and you're on this road now, so it kind of helps for the first at least few hours, and then
Yeah.
you get used to it, and you're like, oh my gosh, give me my trail back.
Um, so when you did your 67 at the Sat Champs, did you feel like you reached, or were you close? Did you feel like you were close to reaching your limit yet?
I mean, I was pretty tired. I mean, you get tired pretty soon, and then even the first night you get tired, you just
Yeah.
keep rolling with it, right? But I felt like I could have kept going. Don't know how long. I had that nagging injury, that dorsiflexor on both legs. In fact, my crew was icing them every single hour, so I didn't know how long that would last. So I made sure I did a lot of exercises working out those tendons and muscles there leading to Bigs. So at Bigs, I didn't have that problem, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I could do at least to get through the night. Well, I was hoping I could, but no one knows, right? It's like it's all speculation.
Yeah, yeah. Where in the body is the dorsiflexor?
Yeah, so it's like right on your shin, so where you're basically where there's your ankle here, where it
Oh,
connects to your foot. So
right,
right here on your shin. So every time you do this motion with your foot, you feel it. It's like so painful, and we notice that it happens only when you walk.
right,
And me as a runner who does alternate all the time, run, walk, I noticed that it hurts like when you walk. So I would add a lot of speed walking sessions, and do a lot of strength exercises for that part of my body. And at some point, I felt it. Um, during bigs, but then it went away. So at satellite championships, it was a big issue. I was actually panicking when I was in loop 55, 56. I told my crew, I remember I had like a little breakdown saying, okay, it hurts so bad that I'm probably going to drop out soon. And Eric looked so good. I was like, he's probably gonna win. But they were like, yeah, just don't focus on it. Do one loop at a time, see how it goes. And they were icing it, and I would go one loop at a time, and it would hurt, but you kind of embrace that pain. You forget about it, and you accept it, and then you keep rolling loop after loop, and we ended up winning it. So that was pretty cool.
yeah. So yeah, you did win that golden ticket to Biggs. So you knew with 12 months' notice that you were going to get in. Now, there was a mixture of different runners with different strategies leading into Biggs. Some of them did one or two races leading in. Others won their golden ticket and didn't race at all. You didn't race at all between the golden ticket and Biggs. So was there any main reason for making that decision?
Yeah, I actually I did not want to do backyard at all. I mean, I knew what I can do. You know, you don't need to destroy your body to know that you can destroy your body. You know, so that's kind of my mindset going to into bigs. I know that okay, I can go 6 7 hours. I can probably keep pushing a little bit more, and I don't need to do another backyard. In Canada, if I did it, so I would run well, probably 40 something hours in your other backyard. Well, I don't need to do it to know that I can go 40 hours, right? Like, well, I already did 67 hours. So instead, I'd rather be well rested and, yeah, come with clean slate with my mind, not burdened with anything, not injured, hopefully, which didn't work out. I did get a little bit injured, but I knew that I didn't want to do backyard. And backyard is, well, let's be honest, backyard is so boring.
Yeah.
Like you just run in loops. There's no views, nothing, and it's a cool format. And I would love to do it, say maybe once a year, once every 2 years. But I can't see doing it many times a year, just because there's so many other races where there's there's destinations, there's beautiful views, there's beautiful mountains, there's beautiful trails. Like you don't just want to run in loops.
Yeah.
very often. That's my mindset. I mean, it's great format. I love it. It's amazing what Last came up with, and I'm just so intrigued how many people are doing it nowadays. But I don't want to do it very often.
Yeah.
I just want to focus on, I guess, on these big races, and I just want to focus on bigs and come up to start bigs, having fresh brain, because mental recovery is probably harder than physical recovery after bigs. I noticed that after satellite, even after BC backyard, my recovery is kind of on the longer side, especially mentally.
Yeah.
Because if I do like a conventional 100 miler, usually 1 week, and I'm ready to dive back into the training. Just you skip one night, so it's not a biggie. Your body needs 7 days to recover, and you're good. But with backyard, oh, such a different story. Well, you skip at least 2 nights, 3 nights. Oh, your bigs you skip 4 nights, so you definitely need a bit longer recovery just to make sure that all their processes in your body are in homeostasis and that you're back to normal and ready to rock and roll. So that's another reason I didn't want to do another backyard, because I didn't want to recover for too long.
Yeah, yeah, fair
I
enough. And I did see that you ran 4 races between Sat Champs and Bigs, and they looked like pretty good races, and you did well as well. So can you tell me a little bit about those races?
Yeah, for sure. I did the first race in March, I believe. The first race of the season was Badger Mountain, which is in Washington. So really close to me here, and was a early season opener, and I just jumped into that race. And it's in a desert. It's a mountain race. It's a 100 miler, beautiful race, nice community, grassroots race, and yeah, I had fun doing it. And then I did 3 other races in Canada. The 50K. I've never done a 50K. It was like the shortest distance in ultra I've ever done, and
Yeah.
it was just so fast for me. I'm not a huge fan of 50Ks, to be honest. But anyways, yeah, I did that because it's a local race, just to support local cause, the community, and the cause that the race had. And then I did another race organized by the same promotion, that BC Backyard. Kara from Lewiston Ultra, she put on this pretty cool 120K race, which is a part of Project Peak series. So the winner gets to go to Argentina in December for the 3-day stage race in Patagonia. That was an amazing price. So I was like, yeah, sure. Like, I'm going to do it. And it's a local race too. So only 120K. So, and it's overnighter. So you start in the evening, finish in the morning. So I like that part too, where you kind of, okay, you get to train a bit at night. So get used to that. And the last race I did was Canadian Death Race. That's where I met Harvey Lewis for the first time, because he came up here to race it too. It's in Canadian Rockies, one of our historic races. Many people know about this Canadian Death Race. It's a 120K, 118K. Also traverses all the Rockies, and very beautiful race and nice community too. So yeah, that's where I met Harvey. I was like, okay, Harvey, I'll see you at Bigs, I guess, next
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Harvey's like, I'll get back at you.
Yeah. um, yeah, I was actually looking into those races you did, and like the results are outstanding. Like, and from what I could see, when you won the Badger Mountain 100-mile challenge, you might not even know this, but you ran the second fastest time in that race since 2011. Did you know that?
No, I got a course record there, Pato.
Oh, did you? So
I
the
did, I did get
fastest.
a course record. Yeah,
Oh,
I
wow.
think I was the first one to go under 16. Yeah, I did. I was, yeah, it was a season opener, so I was
Yeah.
fresh and
Yeah.
I pushed really hard. I still think it's probably one of the most well executed races I've ever done,
Yeah.
because I felt amazing from mile 1 to mile 100. Yeah, and I got that course record. It was pretty cool to go down states and get something there. Yeah, I told you, Pato, I'm a mountain runner. I'm not a huge fan of backyard, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah,
Like I love it, but if I get to choose between backyard and mountain race, trail race, I'll go for this mountain trail race because
yeah,
that's what my where my passion lies. That's
yeah,
why I really love running mountains, running uh, mountain ultra trails.
yeah. And the Canadian Death Race, how cool is the name Canadian Death Race,
I
by
know,
the way?
right?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, it's there's so much going on around. Like the Brian Gland and his team does amazing job organizing his races. So at the end, actually, there is a Grim Reaper. So you gotta get the coin on the top of the mountain in the middle of the race, and then you come to this river crossing at the end, and there's a Grim Reaper standing there. So if you don't have a coin, you have to give a coin, and he will get you across the river. So
right.
if you don't have a coin for the Grim Reaper, uh, you're DNF. So you have to kind of hold that coin all the time, and then you give it to this Grim Reaper, and he lets you across the river. And yeah, the theme of the race is pretty cool. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah. So I don't know if this is right then, but with the Canadian Death Race, you won it and you ran the third fastest time since 2000. Is that right?
I did, yeah. I was chasing the course record, and I was on the course record pace until I missed the turn up the major climb. So I ended up adding 3 or so kilometers on the road. So I had to backtrack, and I was a bit upset, but I still had a good race. Had a fast race, went sub 13, which is considered a good time. And yeah, it was a good race. Yeah, yeah. I love mountains.
Yeah.
I love mountains.
And all this during all this time, were you keeping your finger on the backyard ultra pulse and seeing what was going on around the world as far as results go and things like that?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's like still Bigs was my A race for the year. Yeah,
Yeah,
like I had all these mountain races. I know that I love mountain races, but backyard was my A race and I religiously trained for it. I always dedicated at least one speed walk session a week where I would focus on backyard and yeah, I was watching all the results and I saw what was happening in Australia and
yeah,
Dachau. Yeah, I was mesmerized when I watched it. I couldn't believe how incredible the results would get, and I know you always love backyards, but you just blew it through the roof. Like what
yeah,
Phil Gore did with Sam Harvey was like, I'm like, what?
yeah.
It's like that is incredible. Like that is insane. How can one go that far?
Yeah.
And I remember watching the watching him. I think it was live, and he looked like so fresh. Like
Mm.
when he finished that in the 102, I'm like, oh my gosh, this man is an Iron Man. Like, and
Yeah.
he's coming to Bigs, and I get to run with him. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my, I'm so screwed.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to ask you, were there any runners at Bigs who you were looking forward to in particular to running with?
Oh, like I was looking forward to meeting everyone because, like, yeah, I had 67 hours, but I didn't even make top 20 with my results. I felt
Yeah,
like, holy, I ran almost 3 days, 3 nights, and I'm not even in top 20. Like, that's just insane. I was like number 24 only.
yeah,
So I was definitely looking forward to chatting with everyone, and especially with, yeah, Centennials, with guys that hit hundreds. But it was really hard to chat with them because they're going so fast. Their strategy, their pacing strategies was way different from mine, especially say Phil's and Sam's. Like I haven't chatted with him until I think day 4 because
right.
they eventually did slow down a little bit to my pace. So I
Yeah,
got to chat with them at that point. Otherwise, they were always ahead. And that little section where there's out and back
yeah,
on day course, I could see them. I would always be at the end of the pack, and they would be like running first. And I did chat with. Eventually, I chat with Belgium's, with the Evo and Moran a little bit. Yeah, but I spent most of my time for the first 2 days with the Americans. The American team had exactly the same pace as I did, so we were always targeting like whatever, 51, 53, 4 minute. So we were always hanging out together just because of our pacing. So I spent a lot of time with those guys, and their numbers were impressive too, right? Like
Yeah.
they are in 70s, um, and obviously Harvey was there too. Uh, yeah, but eventually I got to chat with pretty much almost everyone.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting to pick their brain and learn from them. And like I chatted with Sam, and it was Sam Harvey's sleeping strategy was so cool, where said that he would get like 2 hours of sleep at night. I'm like, wow, that's incredible. Like like that's a lot of sleep because
Yeah.
he would run so fast, to get like 15, 20 minutes of sleep. I'm like, wow, like I can't run that fast. Like
Yeah.
I wish I could do it, but I noticed that if I ran too fast, say I would get more than 10 minutes and I would lay down sleep and I would wake up and I would be so stiff. It would be
Right.
so hard to get going.
Yeah.
So it was really hard for me if I slept too much. So I found a bit less sleep worked a bit better until I guess day 5 when I was so out of it that I was thinking about Sam's strategy more. But it was too late already.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I
all
did.
guys. Yeah,
Oh,
go ahead.
sorry.
I was just gonna say all guys were so incredible. Were so
Mm.
nice. Everyone was so friendly. I mean, it was a true ultra running community. That's the part or reason why I love this community because everyone is so supportive.
Yeah.
Everyone is so nice, even though we come from different countries, different backgrounds. Some people didn't really speak good English, and it was amazing. It felt like one big family.
Yeah.
75 family members. Trying to reach one goal.
Yeah.
And it was incredible feeling.
Yeah, because I did see that towards the end as well, like you were getting help from other runners who had dropped out, and other runners' crew were helping you as well. So that must have been pretty cool.
Yeah, it was amazing. And Marina told me a lot that even those who dropped out a little bit earlier, their crews and runners, they would make runs to the store, try to buy whatever I was running out. Because we bought some food, well, maybe for 3 days or so. We didn't realize how far I was gonna go. Plus, I had like a little niggle in my ankle, so I didn't really plan on going far. And then when we kept going, I was like, yeah, I feel good. Let's go. Day 4, Marina's like, okay, well, we need more food. I mean, we're out of food. So definitely so many runners helped out. And yeah, they would make runs to the store or just even bring some ice and help me, chat me, talk me into keep going. The Australian team actually saved my race. Tim, is it how do you
Oh,
Katja?
Kaprizak. Yeah.
Kaprizak. Yeah. So Tim Kaprizak and his crew, Joel,
Yep.
like super tall guy. So he actually saved my race because he gave me his shoes. So I was a little bit underprepared for the 4th day. I've never gone that far, so I didn't realize how big my feet would get. So
Yeah.
my feet were so swollen that my shoes didn't work anymore. They were too small. So I was like, can you ask around if anyone has size 14? I wear a size 12 and a half and I
Wow.
asked for size 14. And Joel, he's like so selfless, he just comes around, takes the shoes off. He was like, dude, here, they're yours. And it was just like, so amazing. Like, I don't know who he is, right? And he's just from the same community. And he knows if he feels my pain, he wants to help. It was
Yeah.
just so amazing. So that's why I'm really thankful to Aussies and in particular to Joel and Tim. Their team basically saved my last, I don't know, 20 plus hours because I put my feet in those shoes and they felt so good,
Yeah.
like so amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I ran in even though he said like there's 300 miles in them already or so, but I didn't care. Like if they're new, if they're old, they just felt so good because it's big size and my feet are swollen and it felt so good to run. So he saved me. I told him that, and I'm so appreciative to Aussies. Like Aussies saved the game. They saved the
Yeah.
show.
You did mention that you had a little bit of a niggle in your ankle, and I noticed on Strava in early September there was a couple of weeks where there was no activities. So Was that
Yeah.
resting an injury?
So I was supposed to have two races in September,
Oh,
trail races. Yeah. So, but I rolled my ankle, and I roll my ankle very often just because on the trail it happens all the time. But they usually feel good. You just run through it, and I kept running through it, and it got worse. It got so bad that I couldn't even step on it. So I was panicking, and I had to cancel those two races, which in retrospect, now I think maybe it was a good thing because my body actually rested and I didn't, overtrain or over raced per se. So I tucked those kilometers that I missed in September to base.
yeah.
But yeah, I forced myself to rest. I stayed at home, and for 2 weeks I did not run at all. I did a lot of biking, which I hate, but I forced myself to do something to kind of maintain that fitness. But yeah, I didn't run, and it felt better. And but right before Bigs, it flared up a little bit, so I felt a little bit of a niggle in my ankle, and I was very nervous. And I was telling Marina about that. And the night before the race, I didn't sleep. I almost didn't sleep because I was so nervous. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just gonna DNF on loop 3 and be a full embarrassment to Canada, and like I have to represent my country proudly. And I was just overthinking it. It was that little niggle. And you know what's funny, Pato, is that at the end of the day, everything was hurting. Literally every single piece of my body was hurting except that damn ankle. Which is hilarious, like how it works, right? Like that
Yeah.
niggle, and I was going into the race with a niggle, and it just went away because everything else was hurting way more, way worse, So, and yeah, so thankfully the ankle didn't bother me, and I guess now I think that break 2 weeks worked well, and it was a smart move, even though I didn't run, but I rested, I recovered, I felt better, and I guess I was super healthy, well, almost super healthy, and rested, well rested before Bigs.
Yeah. And when did you get to Tennessee?
On So we flew into Atlanta actually on Thursday. So we stayed just outside of Atlanta, and then we drove to Tennessee on Friday. Yeah, I
Right. So
figured.
the day before.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
set up day before, and I mean, the time difference is only 2 hours. So I figured we don't really need to acclimate or adjust. 2 hours is not a big deal. I understand people like the Australian runners flying out from different side of the world, so for sure they need to acclimate and adjust a bit. Yeah, but in our case, I figured if we fly in 1 2 days prior, shouldn't be a big deal.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, a lot of the runners, or some of the runners anyway, they were pretty vocal about what they wanted to achieve. Like there was a few runners who saying they wanted to break the world record, a few runners saying they wanted to break 100. Did you have a goal before the race, like what you wanted to achieve?
I did not want to break the world record.
Right.
No, I honestly, Pat, I did not have a goal, and even going to satellites backyard last year, I never have any hefty goal or a number in mind. It's always one loop at a time, and just staying focused and present on that loop, and then the result kind of tags along, and it worked for me previous backyards, and I guess it did work at Bigs. I mean, obviously, I wanted to get to beat my personal best, but I remember I ran 68, and I rang the bell, the PR bell. But in my head, I was like, well, whatever, it's all right. Like I'm here not to PR. I'm here to push my body to the complete extremes where I can't function anymore. Like that was my goal. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave it all here. I got my emergency medical insurance, so if I die here, I won't be hit by crazy American medical bills because I got insurance. So I'm gonna push myself to the extremes. I guess that was the only goal. If my ankle holds up, which it did, I'm gonna push to the very end until I literally can't function anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And Les mentioned a number of times on the live stream that this was the best multi-day race field ever assembled. And a lot of people were predicting that the race would go into like past 100. So going into this race and hearing all this stuff, did you go in with any different strategies to go longer, or was it just basically the same as what you'd done previously?
It's basically the same. And also, I heard that last said that probably gonna go past 100. But I listened to the podcast, your podcast with Phil Gore, and Phil said that he doesn't believe that the world record is gonna fall just because of the course. And I kind of agreed with him because I looked at the profile. I was able to look up some info. I saw the pictures from the Little's dog backyard. My friend and a Canadian teammate, Brian Bondi, did it. So I saw pictures of the course. I'm like, oh, wow, that looks pretty technical. That doesn't look easy. So it should slow down people. And I did not believe that we're going to even break 100. In the interview with Fabian, we had Zoom before Bigs. We all did like little interviews. And he asked me that question, like, how far it's going to go. And I thought this, my head is, yeah, we're going to break the course record, which was 85. But I think we're going to end in 90 somewhere at the end of fourth night, just because how crazy the course is. Like, I know that, yeah, we're all good runners, best of the best. But, I mean, we're all humans here, too. So eventually we have to, give up somewhere. And I thought that course will force us to give up in 90s. I had no idea we're going to go into hundreds, let alone into 107 and 8. Yeah, it's I still like sometimes I'm sitting and like thinking about it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's just insane how far we went. Like, I can't believe it.
Yeah. And so the stats do show that most of the runners, you included, were running a lot faster during the night than the day. Was that like a deliberate tactic so you could have some time to sleep, or was it just because the road was easier to run fast on?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both, Pato. So it was easier, not as much vert, very runnable road. But at night, my goal was to get as much shut eye as possible. So I think I was running like 49, 50 minutes at night, and I would come straight to the camp. I wouldn't eat anything. I just go straight to bed, and Marina and my crew would cover me and wake me up with one whistle only. And then she would give me food, and I would eat on the go. So I didn't spend any time eating in the camp at night. Like all the time that I was in camp, like I think after 10 p.m., between 10 p.m. and the sunrise, I would try to get those 8 minutes sleep per hour.
Yeah.
And it worked. It worked until it didn't.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you probably need a little bit more sleep if you want to go through the fifth night. But it worked until then, and I felt really. It was hard to get through the night. Every night was a battle, was a struggle. But when the sun came out and during the day loops, when I was on the trail, when I was in my element, I felt great. I felt that sleeping the night before worked, and that's what we did.
Yeah. In that pre-recorded interview that you mentioned that they played during the live stream, you did mention in that interview that lack of sleep hadn't been an issue for you in previous backyard ultras, but did it become an issue for you like towards the end?
Yeah. So I've never gotten through 4 nights before. I've never gone through 3 nights before with no sleep, right? So
yeah.
Here in Canada, I worked a lot at night while studying when I was a student. So I did run for many, many years with little to no sleep, or like napping here and there just to be able to survive here. When I was a student, I had to work at night. So that I felt like that life experience was very beneficial for backyard. And when I did the BC backyard and then satellite championships, I never had issues with sleeping. Even when we were going into the third night, I did not sleep much. I definitely slept way more at Bigs now. But I never had issues with sleeping. I mean, obviously, you're falling asleep a bit, you're a bit foggy, but I would never stop because of that.
Yeah.
I never had issues. So 3 nights were pretty easy at Biggs. And going into the fourth night, that's when it got a little bit um, different because I guess I've never gone into the fourth night. And I guess that's where it's starting getting a bit harder. And yeah, I was having some issues with like even memory. I wouldn't have any hallucinations, which is
Mm.
interesting. I never see any hallucinations, but I would have some little gaps in memory where I would like close my eyes and then I open my eyes and I already covered this 1 kilometer, or I already made this turn and I don't remember taking this turn.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I would ask Marina, was like, where are we running? So I forgot where we were going. Oh, so out of it. Yeah, so Marina was like, okay, you just get in this corral, you just follow these people. Just I'm like, what if these people are out of it too? And how what if they try and follow me while I'm following them? Yeah, so I was a little bit of out of it. But then the sun came out and got a bit better on day 5, but still, that's where I feel like maybe I should make a bit different adjustments to my sleeping schedule. Maybe I would have to get like a couple hours where I would utilize, say, Sam's strategy where I would run faster, like 40 minutes, 42-minute loops, which would be possible in that course,
Mm.
where I would get in at least 15 or 20-minute sleep, at least for like 2 or 3 hours in a row.
Yeah.
And I feel like that would make a difference for the fifth night. I believe that we can get through the fifth night for sure. I think 120 hours is doable,
Wow.
very much doable. We'll get there. We'll get there in 2 years, and maybe even faster.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see it next year. You never know. Like those results are just skyrocketing.
Yeah.
Maybe on a bit easier course, we'll see it even next year. But I'm pretty sure Bigs is possible, 120 at least for the Bigs. And you know what? Sun is out on day 6, so why not keep going, right?
Yeah, that's right. And actually, watching you run, you look really like an absolute natural. It's beautiful watching you run. Um, even deep into the race, you looked like you were like you had no problems at all. Looked so smooth. So
Thanks, Pat. Fake it until you make it, right?
So, like, were your legs hurting at all, or what stage of the race did things start feeling hard, like physically hard?
I mean, you start feeling it probably 10 hours into the race,
Yeah.
right? Like, I mean, even 12 hours, so 50 miles. 50 miles is a long way to go. So eventually you start feeling it. But I guess this format, you learn to accept, embrace pain, and move past it eventually because things popping up nonstop, and eventually everything is hurting. But you make pain your friend. You just accept it, and you forget about it. So with my foot though, on day 5, I feel like partially just because of my bad shoe choice earlier into the race, and Joel saved my race, but my foot was already pretty bad, pretty messed up. So I should have worn bigger shoe a bit earlier into the race. And again, this is where experience comes into play. Just my third backyard, so I didn't know that my foot would get that big, right?
Yeah.
So I had no idea. Like I heard
Yeah.
that feet are getting big, but not that big. So now next time I do backyard, maybe I'll be smarter and use this experience and wear bigger shoes a bit later. So on the 5th day on the day course, so my left foot felt really bad. Like I still remember, it's just every step is pain, and I felt like it was broken or something.
Mm.
So when we got on the first night loop on the asphalt, that's where things I got really worse, and I ran first kilometer, and I couldn't feel my foot. Like I thought, okay, I think I broke my foot or something. So that's when I stopped and I took off the shoe. I still remember the drone flying over my head. And I sat and I just touched my foot and I couldn't feel it. that's where I kind of I got a little bit scared because I'm like, okay, um, I have another season coming up, and I want to enjoy this sport. I wanna keep running and enjoying ultra running, and I think this is where I have to draw the line if I want to be in this sport for the long haul. I don't want to inflict the permanent damage on my foot. I knew that that pain wasn't the one I can suck it up. It wasn't one of those where I can just forget about it. I've been ignoring it for hours and hours already, and I was like, okay, that foot coupled with my sleep deprivation, I think I was like, and this is how hour 108. I'm like, oh my gosh, we've gone so far.
Yeah.
And like, I think I was like, I think we can draw the line here, and that's where I made a decision, turn around
Yeah.
and do the walk of shame.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you about that. Because I noticed you sat down and it looked like you were taking off your shoe, and I thought maybe you got a rock in your shoe or something like that, and you were taking out a rock or something. But you're actually feeling your foot because it was feeling so.
Yeah,
So
I was like touching, I couldn't feel it anywhere. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not good. The funny thing you're saying, my dad was watching the live streams. He thought I got a heart attack and I
oh,
fell.
oh my god,
And he said like he started crying watching the video because he thought that I just collapsed on the
oh
asphalt, and the drone is just sitting there just watching me dying.
yeah,
Oh, that was so funny and not funny at the same time. No, yeah, for sure. I was like, I tried to touch my foot, tried to see like what's happened. I'm like, this is too. And I started thinking about future races. I'm like, I want to do those races. I think we did already pretty amazing. I think we have to appreciate that, and we will celebrate that. And yeah, decided to make that made a decision and walked back, and I don't know, it felt good to make that decision, to be honest. I do not regret it now that I slept on it and processed it. I feel my foot is getting better, and I know that I'm going to be racing again, and and I think it was a right move. It was a
mm,
hard move, maybe not popular move. Not everyone wanted me to stop.
yeah,
But I think I had to stop at that point so that I could come back and go further,
yeah.
hopefully.
Was the foot broken?
I thought it was broken. It's not broken, thankfully. No,
No.
it was just hurting, and I didn't have to scan it. It's getting better. I still feel a little bit there, a little niggle there. But I think it's gonna be all right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Also, when you were walking back, um, after you decided to go back, a car pulled over and stopped. And was that just someone making like just a passerby stopping, saying, "Are you okay?" Or
You know what? I think it was last neighbor or something, and they were just they stopped by and I was like, "Yeah, good job, congrats." They thought I was either running back, making my way back, but I was so out of it, and I was so tired, and that I didn't want to explain it. I was like, "Yeah, thank you, kind of, yeah, thank you." Even though I'm a quitter here, but thank you.
right. Uh, let's see. So I was going to ask you about your shoes. How many pairs of shoes did you take with you, and did you bring different shoes for the day course and the night course?
Yeah, so I brought four pairs of shoes, which was not enough. I should have brought way more. Um, at least eight, I guess,
Yeah,
double, and then bigger sizes too. I did have a trail shoe for the day course with like a rock plate to protect like my toes, because there's a lot of rocks, some roots, so we always end up hitting something. I didn't want to lose my toenails very soon, at least. And for the night course, I have more cushioned shoes so that I somehow at least uh, cushion that road section, which is horrible. 13 hours of hell there.
yeah,
but, and I feel like it's kind of good to change shoes, even though if you don't have to, but it's kind of nice to feel different offset, different feeling in the shoe, so that your toes not getting used to the same layout or to the same type of impact.
yeah.
um But eventually, I had 5 pairs of shoes thanks to Joel, who donated his huge size 14 shoes to me. And yeah, but next time I'll definitely bring way more shoes and way bigger shoes for later stages because you can't really avoid swelling. You know, no matter what you do, your feet swell, and my feet swell a lot. Uh,
Yeah.
and I'm okay with swelling. I'm okay with stepping on swollen foot, but you have to rim it with the biggest shoe. Again, that's where experience comes into play, right? Like this is my just third year of racing, so some things I'm still learning. I'm still the student of the game. You know,
Yeah.
I'm still figuring out what works for me or what doesn't, and this is great. You know,
Yeah.
so now I know it, and next time I'll be smarter.
Yeah. Yeah. You did mention that, like, before the race, you weren't sure if, or you weren't expecting the race to go into the hundreds. Around what stage of the race did you realize we're going to go into the hundreds?
I knew that after day three, so or night three. So when after 72 hours, we had 23 people. 23 people completed 72 hours.
Yeah.
This is like mind-boggling. Like, what's wrong with you people? It's just insane. Like, think
Yeah.
about it. Like when we did 48 hours, I think 47 people completed 48 hours. 48 hours would give you a win at any given Canadian backyard. You
Mm.
take any Canadian backyard, you're going to win it with 48 hours. And we had 47 people who completed it. And I was like, oh my goodness. We ran for 48 hours. There's still 47 people. Like, these people are insane. And when we did 3 days, 3 nights, and there were 23 people, I'm like, this is definitely gonna go into hundreds. Like, there's no way. Yeah, and when we still had like when we crossed 100, I think 6 people did 100. 6 people, six. I know I was very out of it by then, but I could understand that so many people got into hundreds and so many people did 90s, and it's just incredible. Yeah, yeah. So when I heard that stats, I think Marina told me that she said like 23 people did 72 hours. I was like, okay, well, this is definitely gonna go far. There's
Yeah.
no way these people are gonna stop, anywhere in the 80s or 90s, which is incredible. I had no idea that that's how strong everyone is, and it's amazing that everyone was so strong and
Mm.
prepared for this race. I guess that's what drove
Yeah.
our results up, and yeah.
The I heard a few people mention that you had a good game face, and it's true because your expression didn't really change much during gigs that I saw on the live stream anyway. Is that just the way you are, or did you sometimes find yourself making an effort to, like, appear cool, calm, and collected?
No, that's probably the way I am, Pato. Honestly,
Yeah.
I love to keep really relaxed face, and I know it works both ways. Even if you kind of make yourself a little bit smile, or kind of try to look better, and it works the opposite way, so you actually start feeling better
Yeah.
when you do that. And I'm always I know Howie Stern said that I have a resting smile face,
Right.
which I never thought of it, but I look at all his pictures and I will have some like little grin. But I guess that's, yeah, no, that's the way I am. And in all honesty, Pat, I did feel great, um, pretty much entire race until the very last stages when I was a little bit out of it, just where sleep deprivation was catching up with me. But I felt great, going into the fourth day when we went back on the trails. Sun came out, and I was just running those trails, being my element. And the fact in my head, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I did 72 hours, and we're back on the trails, and then the sun is out." and I was like, and I feel so good. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is amazing. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going into the fourth day. Like,
Yeah.
I can't believe it. Yeah. So, yeah, most of the time I felt good, and that's, I guess, why I look good. And even the last set couple times when I would finish, you're like, Eeyore, you look too fresh. I was like, oh my god, I was saying that. Amazing.
Um,
Uh,
so probably all the runners that I heard talk about the trail say it was hard and that they fell at least once. Um, did you fall in the trail?
yeah, yeah, I did fall. I fell a couple times probably, but nothing crazy. I guess I fell on the fourth day, and I was kind of, as I was falling, I grabbed a tree and it scratched up my forearm here. It kind of looks good now, but it looked pretty bad right after the race.
Yeah.
It was the only, I guess, major fall, but I wasn't bleeding or anything. Nothing serious. I mean, I love trails. I run on trails all the time. I run technical trails. So I'm very cautious when it comes to footing. I always watch my steps. So I guess that helped. But yeah, I've seen people bail pretty hard on that trail, and it's very easy, especially after skipping a couple nights of sleep. You kind of get comfortable with steps, and you forget to lift your foot a bit here, higher, and there, and a little rock there, and a little root there, and doesn't take much time, and before you know it, you're down there.
Yeah. 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 So with the doing so well, helping break the record, 107 hours, the assisted bigs, have you been getting any media attention over there?
Yeah, I guess I got, I mean, I got attention from you.
Yeah.
Now we're doing the podcast, like, oh, this is cool. I'm gonna be on the podcast with Pada. But yeah, for sure, our local media here in Canada reached out, and I was on the radio, and another media wants to do some little show or whatever, just like a story about me, and yeah, and our online magazines and all these resources, sports resources, they also reached out for a comment. So yeah, a little bit of attention here and there, and yeah, and we have another podcast, the Canadian podcast with Marina that we're going to be on tomorrow.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so yeah, and it was pretty incredible after. So my phone had so many notifications that it died,
Right.
and I didn't use my phone at all. I forced myself, like when I'm racing, I'm trying to stay away. I don't want to look at my phone, I want to be focused on the loop. So then when I charged it, I went in. I was like, oh my gosh, so many messages, and from people from all over the world, from mostly from Canada. Canadians. They were glued to the screens, and many teachers send me videos of kids from classrooms because they had live stream in schools for days. And I was like, oh my god, this is just so incredible, and all the love and support that Marina and I get. I got the yeah, it was just so overwhelming. It made me cry almost. When I saw that, and all the love and support, which we appreciate it so much.
Mm,
And it was an incredible experience, and being a part of it is
yeah.
definitely something special.
Yeah. Um, Again, in that interview that you did before the race, you mentioned how you were curious to see how far you could go and to see how your body and mind would respond when you go really deep in a backyard ultra. So now you've run 107 yards and been the assisted bigs and part of the world record performance and all that type of thing. Did that satisfy your curiosity, or are you still curious?
I'm still curious.
Really?
I think um, like I had to stop because of some, I guess, injury and a little bit of sleep deprivation. But I think we can go further. Like I know that I had to stop at that point, but that was the stop with an idea that I come back with more experience, with more knowledge, and we're gonna push further. I'm pretty sure we as human species can go at least 5 days and 5 nights. I'm convinced. I know we're gonna see it either. We don't see it next year. We'll definitely see it in 2025,
Yeah.
where we're gonna go through the fifth night. I think it's doable, and I'm curious to see who's going to be the first one to break that barrier. But we will see it happen for sure. Now I'm convinced.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm assuming you'll be running for Team Canada at the Sat Chance next year?
Uh, you know what, Pata? I don't know. Um, I don't know. We'll see. I think it depends on a bit of logistics and on my schedule for
Yeah.
the next year. I think um, the satellite championship is going to be somewhere east,
Right.
so we'll have to fly out there. So it's not certain, not 100%. I might, but I don't know yet. So I can't promise it to everyone and then not follow through because it's not who I am. So I can't say for sure right now.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And have you got any races planned that aren't backyard ultras in the next few months or the next 12 months?
Yeah. I actually, so one of those races I was telling you that the prize is the trip to Argentina, to Patagonia for the 3 day stage race. So that one is happening the beginning of December. So I'm going to fly there. It's probably going to be just an adventure for me to see the Patagonia and just have fun. I'm not going to really race per se. But the next competitive race will be a Hurt 100 miler in Hawaii. That's a famous 100 miler in Hawaii, and I won the lottery, so I got into it. So I'm looking forward to that race for sure. It's gnarly, it's hard, and it's something I really love. So hopefully by then I'll be recovered in good shape, so I could give it a good go.
Yeah,
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 so that one is for sure in the schedule. And yeah, nothing else so far. Yeah,
yeah. And
and then
when's that
we'll see.
Hawaii race?
It's January 14th.
Okay, yep, awesome.
Hmm.
Not too far away.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Yeah. And at the end of my podcast, I like to ask my guests, what are your 3 tips for doing well in a backyard ultra?
3 tips. Okay. Well, first tip, be consistent. I guess it applies not only to backyard, but to ultra running in general. Just keep showing up. Um, get up early or go for a run after work, whatever your schedule is, but keep showing up, keep training. That consistency adds up week after week, month after month, year after year. And backyard, I find, is something that requires some endurance and experience. So it comes with age a little bit. That's why I find I'm kind of a little bit young for it. And, I feel maybe in future I'll have a little bit more endurance
Yeah,
and won't quit that early. But yeah, stay consistent, be consistent, keep showing up. Um, um, that's tip number one. Tip number two, believe in yourself. Remember that you can do hard things. Uh, it's all mental at the end.
mm,
Got to keep remembering that everyone is hurting, and backyard it gets really hard. No matter who you are, no matter how well trained you are, how old, how young you are, it gets mental. Believe in yourself. Believe in your training.
yeah,
And third, stay focused on one loop. Don't have any hefty numbers in your head. Don't have PRs in your head. Don't have world records in your head. Show up, loop number one, done. Loop number two, done. One loop at a time. Stay focused on that loop. And before you know it, you're gonna hit your PR. You're gonna hit your national record. You're gonna hit the world record.
yeah, yeah. Awesome.
And that.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming on. I was so impressed with how well you did in that race. It was absolutely amazing to watch.
Thanks, Bada. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be on your podcast.
Oh
Honestly,
no,
I was like, 'cause I remember you started following me on Instagram before Biggs. I'm like, oh, Bada is following me on Instagram. I'm like,
really?
better do good if I want to be on his podcast. And yeah, there you go. And yeah, it's pretty cool to be on your podcast and among those big names, you know. So I'm a huge fan, and yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, look, I mean, I was thrilled when I found out when you told me you're a listener of the podcast. I couldn't believe it.
Oh yeah, like ever since Andy was like he was the one who kind of advertises it for us here because I honestly haven't heard of it before. I didn't know there's such a niche podcast where you were focusing on backyard only, and of course it has to be in Aussie because Aussies love their backyard. So
Yeah,
when I listened to his podcast, I'm like, oh my god, Pat is asking actually good questions. Like,
right.
let me look up. I'm like, oh, you had Laz on your podcast. So I'm like, okay then.
Yeah,
And then I listened to all the podcasts before, and then every new release I would listen and I would pick up some, you know, especially when I listened to Phil Gore's episode. I also picked some notes, and you know how, especially on sleeping strategists, and you know it's always interesting to hear what the behemoths of the sport are doing. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean that it might work for me, but it's interesting to know. You know, because things that work for Phil Gore might not work for me, and vice versa. What works for me will never work for him. But it's really cool to get a little bit of knowledge and experience uh, uh, from the experts of this sport, and you were able to give us you know that knowledge through your podcast, and I really appreciate it, Bada.
oh, thanks. Well, you're definitely a behemoth of the sport now.
Oh, I don't know about that. I like to keep it simple, and I don't think of it. I mean, sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I did run the assist in like so many hours. That's crazy. But like, you know what? Let's stay focused. Let's learn from this experience, and let's apply it to my future races.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks again, Ihor, for coming on. It's been really interesting and really fun to talk. Um, all the best in your races coming up. That Hawaii 100 one sounds really cool. So I'll be following along and we'll stay
Thanks,
in
Bella.
touch. Yeah, hopefully we meet one day as well. Have you ever been to Australia before or?
I have not, and I was telling actually Tim that I would love to come down to Australia and do one of the races there. Not necessarily backyard, though, right?
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
mean, some trail ultra 100 miler, or even I know you have a really cool 200 miler in Australia too.
yeah,
It would be really nice to go down there and yeah, meet you in person for sure, and you know maybe even just go for a run and explore your neighborhood. And you know we don't have to race. It's
yeah,
not always about racing, right? It's
yeah,
all
that's
about
it.
experiences and great moments and encounters. So
Yeah, 100%. Well, look, thanks again, Ihor. Have a great day and we'll stay in touch for sure. Thanks again for coming on.
yes, thank you, Pato.
No worries.
Okay.
Bye. If you've enjoyed this podcast, it would be awesome if you could share, comment, like, subscribe, all of that. If you've got any feedback, shoot me a message. Hope you have a great day. See ya.